When I touch a mic, like always, is ask you to acknowledge yourself for being here and being involved in this very important discussion. So give yourselves a round of applause. I appreciate you for being patient. And just as a housekeeping note, so let me tell the story. So this came out of a conversation that was had with Jackie Ward. Jackie Ward, where are you? Please raise your hand. Jackie Ward, Steve Smith, and myself at a bar around the corner. We were talking about affordable housing, and a week later, Steve calls me from the airport, said, I'm sitting next to Rev, we want to come to Ward 8. And I appreciate that phone call a great deal. So on Friday, he hears about the affordable housing situation here in DC, and he shows up here on Monday. That's a beautiful thing. So just like you all, when there is an issue, Mr. Jackson is here, and I want to recognize him for that. And before I turn it over, I want to thank the Art Center, which opened up for us on the day that they were closed, Mr. Lightfoot for providing food, Camille in the back, Lamine, I appreciate you all. And now I am going to introduce the Reverend. I'll let the Reverend introduce himself. Well, it's really hard to introduce a man who has a resume as long as Reverend Jackson.
Short version.
The short version is, as an aspiring politician, I am a guy who has studied this gentleman that I am standing next to, and it's an honor to introduce a man that has run for president twice and has inspired others who stood next to Dr. King in the 60s and next to Obama in present day, and still has the energy to go to Ballou High School and get kids all riled up. So I appreciate this gentleman a great deal, and I present to you Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Thank you very much. I am delighted to be here. My friends, it's honor the mayor. Thank you. And all of my friends, when some years ago, when I had run the second time, we moved to Washington for a while and ran for statehood senator here and spent a lot of time in Ward 8 at that time with many friends and churches in Ward 8, so you're still a part of my heart in a very real sense. We're now to another phase of our struggle. It's clear to me now what give me this day our daily bread means, because yesterday's bread is stale, but it was good when it was good for. We're now in another stage of our civil rights struggle. I went to jail in 1960s about trying to use a public library. We couldn't use basic public accommodations. We faced barbarism and indecency. For many of the young people, they hear the March on Washington, Dr. King's a literally poetic climax, I have a dream. But you must remind them the day he gave that speech, from Texas across to Florida, up to Maryland, we couldn't use a single public toilet. My school class couldn't take a picture on the lawn of state capitals. Our money was counterfeited. We couldn't buy ice cream at Howard Johnson. We couldn't rent a room at Holiday Inn. Black soldiers wept that day as he spoke because they were sitting behind Nazi prisoners of war on American military bases. That was that struggle. We won that battle. But then that season, next year, Faneuil Heming said, well, what about the right to vote? The right to self-determination. So we went to Kansas, Atlantic City, and then an all-white delegation from Mississippi said that is not Mississippi, and they fought to split up the delegation. That was the opening of the works toward Selma in 1965. And what was significant about 65 was not just that blacks had the right to vote, because we did, but white women couldn't serve on juries in many parts of the South. 18-year-olds of serving in Vietnam could not vote. You couldn't vote on college campuses. You couldn't vote bilingually. When I ran in 84 and 88, you could not get proportional delegates. So in 84, I ran and got maybe 400 delegates out of 3.5 million new voters. That's because of something, the rules called winner take all. If I get 49, you get 51, you get all 100. We challenged that system. We won. We democratized democracy. fighting for the right. So on 84 rules, Hillary Clinton would have been the winner. We democratized the rules. In '88, Barack became the winner because proportionality. She won California and Ohio and Pennsylvania, but she didn't win all of it. So we've never stopped fighting. When Dr. King first left Selma to Chicago, it was about open housing, the fair housing demonstration. We thought the housing was just it was a northern thing. What we now see in these big cities is something called gentrification. As I spoke at Ballou today, that fabulous school, Ballou, that new housing around Ballou, and the price for those housing, as they shrink government, we're basically government. That means shrinking us out the neighborhood. That means gentrification. That means that this will be a memory unless you fight back and demand that you have the right to stay where you made to prosper. You survived through the toughest days of Anacostia and Ward 8. Now is your time to have a condition in which you can live and function and grow. Ballou must be your school tomorrow as well, not just the old Ballou. We left there, we went to Richard Wright School today. All those kids who are 18 or older can register and vote. Right, we register them to vote today. And so we also, as we go forward, even in given all of the Trump dynamics of the season, the most attacks we've known in civil rights in 50 years, all that we fought for is on the chopping block. When they said that after 100 days, Mr. Trump is losing, that's not true. He's winning the battle to traumatize civil rights. They're putting people over cabinets who are opposed to the cabinets that they represent. So Mr. Sessions said that the Voting Rights Act was an infringement on Southern rights. It really was protection of all people, Southern, black and white, and brown in the South. Because of the Voting Rights Act, we now have these new officials across America today. The Congress looks more like America than ever before. So when Sessions is with 93 appointments, for them, they're winning. Put Ms. Vos over education, who's never gone to public school, wouldn't have the qualification to teach an elementary class, never been to a PTA meeting. When she's over education, they are winning. It's not, America's not winning, but they're winning. When they put Mr. Carson over housing and cut the budget by $6 billion, those who banks drive us out of private housing with subprime lending, won't build public housing. Those who don't want public housing drive us into homelessness. They're winning. When you put Mr. DeVos over education and they cut the budget by $9 billion, ordinarily when you're heading a department, they cut your budget, you protest. They're celebrating the cutting of the budget, so-called undermining the federal government. And why are we affected as workers? We're disproportionately in the government because we got locked out the private sector. When we found there were some rules in something called civil service, we became civil service workers. And so as they shrink government without expanding the private sector, we lose our jobs. So we lose our jobs, our houses, education, our health care, our life options. In the face of these challenges of gentrification, removing us from our neighborhoods, removing us from our jobs, we the people must stand together and fight back. One thing we must do, one, is we must demand automatic voting at age 18. We should demand automatic voting at age 18. 7 states do. A birth certificate when you're born, death certificate when you die. At age 18, you should be automatically registered to vote. That means that you'll save money in voter registration, and they will save money registering people to vote. We should have multi-day registration, which some states do not have. We should have the federal right to vote, and D.C. should be a state. So number one, we demand automatic voter registration at age 18. We demand multiple days, early days to vote. We demand federal protection of the right to vote, the constitutional right. We demand D.C. have statehood. We serve America in wartime disproportionately and pay more taxes in 7 states. Taxation, without representation, is tyranny. And representation that don't pay taxes is also tyranny. Say amen, somebody. Let me say this lastly. We have 5 weapons that we fight with. So weapon number 1, the vote. Weapon number 2, dollars. Weapon number 3, our marching feet. Weapon number 4, build coalitions. Weapon number 5, do not surrender. The courage of your convictions. That we will not get anything we don't fight for. We've never lost a battle that we fought, and never won a battle unless we fought. We intend to save Ward 8 from gentrification. This ward is our ward, where we live and build and grow. We'll fight to protect the integrity of fair housing in Ward 8. Put your hands together. Now, as I said when I was learning about this session, and thank you so much for calling, we wanted to go to Ballou School today and Richard Wright to stay close to our children. They feel that the pain when parents are anxious by staying together. Children may never say it, but they feel it. When the parents may lose their job, they may say nothing, they feel it, right? You better lose your house, they feel it. And that means they're not likely to study because they're not in a productive environment. So our children must not feel uncertain about where we live, where we work, and how we prepare to send them to college. We deserve stability. So now let's have a little Q&A here, a little discussion. I'm so delighted to be with you today. But there's an old man over in the corner. Watch that guy right there, the one right there. That's what it is. What's his name? What's his name? And Trump said he is a... The media's in there. Questions? No, it's not fake news. I don't believe that. Yes, sir.
Hang on. Actually, before Ron, and I want to make sure that you're the first question. I do want to recognize that you said something very important. As a matter of fact, you sound like you could still run for shadow senator today. Did everybody hear his taxation without representation speech? It was fantastic. But you clearly recognize the importance of local government, and as someone who has utilized registration as a weapon, how do we, after we register, mobilize young folks to combat ills like gentrification?
First of all, you must know that gentrification is a national phenomenon. It's not just Washington. The people in Silicon Valley have prospered so much, they've virtually run the black population in San Francisco from 10% down to 2%. And most poor people cannot rent a corner store in San Francisco. In Chicago, they talk a lot about violence, and there is a lot of violence. But there are 9 communities with unemployment above 22%, and poverty above 40%. Guns in, drugs in, jobs out. And what was basically public housing, they closed all that public housing and stopped building private housing. We privatized and drove out with subprime lending private housing and closed down public housing, which triggered homelessness. If you can't get private housing because of subprime lending, but they bail out the banks. non-linked lending and reinvestment. So the banks have a role to play in Ward 8 too. The banks have a role to play. They play the silent hand in this deal. But the federal government has a role to play too. You have a Secretary of Education, a Secretary of Housing. The budget's been cut, but the principles of saying where you choose to stay have not been cut. So I would urge, we know about the city because you screamed out. If you say silence is the enemy of those who need justice. I must use my voice. My voice attracts my allies. But this is not just peculiar to Washington.
Well, before we go to the audience, and my mic still on? Hello?
Oh, your battery's dead.
Okay. Well, I don't need it. It's fine. It's fine. Hang on.
You need the battery so we can pick up the sound.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So while we're doing this, what I want to do is, on the heels of the importance of local government, I want to give our council member from Ward 8, who is here, Trayon White, and is a shining example of democracy. This young man was able to stand up a victory with, what is it, 110? 117. The money of his opponent, of the incumbent, and he used the line that you used in your presidential run, which is "We the people." He didn't say "We the people will win," but he did say "We the people." So I do want to bring him up and give him a chance to ask the first question.
So I want to give it back to Mr. Aaron Holmes as well, because he kept me on my toes in the forums, also as a candidate, and also to our former councilmember LaRuby May and those other candidates. But I wanted to say that the housing is definitely a crisis in D.C., more specifically in Ward 8, because the amount of calls we get every day from residents. Even I was outside of the carryout. No, I shouldn't be eating carryout. But 3 residents walked up to me and started talking about they on the verge of getting kicked out right here in Anacostia today. So I think this conversation is very timing and relevant, and I want to thank the Reverend Jesse Jackson and the Rainbow Push Coalition for being on the front line for so many years, just fighting for our people on so many different issues. You can give them another round of applause. I think that's notable. And in Ward 8, he could have went anywhere across the United States in which he do, but he's right here in the heart of Ward 8 where, you know, African Americans are seeing it firsthand. The resources drying up. We're experiencing a surplus in the budget for the last 3 years. But yet we don't feel that as residents in Ward 8. And as a new council member, my job is to try to figure out with the residents how we can alleviate some of the pressure that we can still live here, stay here, and grow here.
You know, part of what we must do, what they call best practices, is share information. There's some other people around the country who fought this fight, who would be glad to come upon your calling them to be part of thinking it through. We've gone all the way from marching for fair housing, the rent strikes, all kind of combinations of schemes to fight encroachment and to fight gentrification. And so we need to work with you to work on some people around the country who fought gentrification, who set up some community rules to protect you from that happening to you. And it may mean real stiff resistance. But if you see the evidence of gentrification, you must fight back. And I would urge you to, I want the Rainbow Push Coalition to work with you. I'm anxious to be a part of this drive to protect your right from gentrification in Ward 8.
Okay, you have any local representatives here?
We do.
Okay.
I'm right here.
Okay, there he is, right there.
Bishop Steve Smith works with us here
Okay.
in Washington.
And I just want to go on the record, we have a lot of community activists in the room that's been on the front line as well, that's we're going to connect and really come together as well.
Some of them I grew up with.
Phil Purnell, C. Sandy Allen, Sandra Seegers, the usual suspects are in the room. Choice.
One thing that your victory proves is there's no such thing as passing the baton. To leadership does not wait for a baton to be passed. The baton will never be passed. There is no baton
There is no baton
to pass.
To pass.
Leadership
Leadership.
must step in the gap.
Step in the
That's what
gap.
you've done. Give yourself a hand. That's a big deal. I mean, you want change, and you convince people that you represent them. That means door to door. I mean, it means house to house. I mean, Marion Barry didn't just happen to become a legend in this city. Marion was a part of breaking down. Many people came here from the South, came here on the basis of the work he had done there. He got here and organized. What was the name of the group? Marion's group. Pride. Came and he organized people and gained the confidence of people, and went to churches, and went to banquets, and went to funerals, and went to weddings, and gained the confidence of people. That's what leadership must come bottom up. It must gain the confidence of the people. Questions?
Well, I want to start with
Yes,
Ron
sir.
in the back, and then make it ready. Well, Ron had his hand up first.
Yes, sir.
Reverend Jackson, I was blessed to be mentored by some of the people you work with. One of my main mentors was Reverend James Bevel. And one of the things that he taught us and young ladies like Patrice Charisse, who's an ANC also, a voted elected official, was that one of the biggest problems in the African American community is, for instance, where we at right now, it ain't just Donald Trump, but 91% of the young people 15 and 17 years old are being raised by single parents. I don't care what we do, if our women are raising babies by themselves, and it's almost impossible to build wealth. So what are we going to do as a people about that, number one? And the other thing is, one of the things that Dr. King talked about before he was assassinated, and I believe the reason why he was really assassinated, was economics. He started focusing in on economics for black people, right? What is it that we need to do to deal with black people, empowering black people, and stop waiting for somebody to do something for us? Because we have the dollars, we have the resources, but I'm tired of the rhetoric, keep waiting for somebody. And look, my life was the same under Obama, and under Trump, I don't think it's gonna be no better, or it might be better, but I didn't get anything better under Obama, because we're not practicing collective economics, and we keep asking the government to do something for us when we have wealth in the room amongst ourselves. So on those two things and the great men that you work with, what can you say to that?
You're raising different issues. First issue, of our housing has nothing to do with single parents. If you're a single parent or a grandparent, you have the right to live where you choose to live without being gentrified out by a larger scheme. One thing that, of course, that affects single parents when you have every black man in America, 1/3 would be a jail record before he's 30 years old. That's an issue. With disproportionate jail, we work harder and make less, live under stress and don't live as long. That's the factor. You look at the schemes to deny us affordable health care. And so the issue of stable families is an issue. Please don't confuse that with gentrification. If it's all women in the room, they have the right not to be driven out of section, out of our Ward 8 for gentrification. And so I value what you're saying. Collective economics is significant. But a lot of times you can have the right idea, can't borrow capital. If you got the good idea, and can't get access to capital, industry, and technology, you still can't grow. So we're trying to get for every church in this neighborhood, for example, to have at least 20 laptops in one of those empty Sunday school rooms to teach our children apps and codes and stock market game and financial literacy. So we will know the science of capital. So if you spend more than you have and vote less than you have, a formula for suicide. I must spend less than I make and vote all I can to maximize my power. And many of us vote less and spend more. So our net value is down because we're not in fact debt. So your point is right about stable families, But of course, the economy is unstable. I can't, living in Chicago now again, to look at how this is murder capital. We don't make guns in Chicago. We're targeted for gun distribution, like in the first Godfather movie. You see, guns are targeted, drugs are targeted, and jobs are targeted out. So on this matter of fair housing and gentrification, because when I looked at Ballou again today, I'm like, oops, in all those nice houses around Ballou, you almost know what's next. We live at 400 T Street. When we moved there 20 years ago, it was almost all black, and it was several drug houses down the street. We knew where the drug houses were and where the police went, stayed a long time and came out. We knew where it was. My wife walked out there and the guy ran down the street, and I got the gun, and the guy was going to stop, and the woman said, shoot him. I'm going to shoot him. He killed him right in front of my wife. We saw that. And another friend worked with me, saw the victim of triple homicide right down on T Street. Then they brought that transportation in there. And have a black person, that neighborhood, they look, what are you doing over here? That neighborhood has gone from black to white, and from bars and houses to churches, 4 blocks from Howard within the last 10 years, right? So gentrification is not just a ward for number. It's what you call it, the name of the park. You call it. It's not Shaw. LeDroit Park. I mean, LeDroit Park is absolutely the case. When they built that new rail system in there, everything changed. Now, I'm not saying people should not have the right to open housing, but it's not right to drive middle income and poor people out. We also found in Chicago where they over-assess our houses. Our houses, the tax value is higher than the worth of the house. Some of the bigger houses are under-assessed. So the houses are worth more, the assessment is lower. Our houses are worth less, the assessment is higher. So many people who are now widow or widower who lost one of their mates living on fixed income, they cannot pay the taxes to keep their houses there, right? So there are a combination, Mr. Coleman, there are a combination of things going here. One, the issue of over-assessment of the value of the housing, as well as the schemes where the banks will not lend to you. The loan lender, say banks, targeting is a factor. I mean, the reason I want to meet with some people who kind of been doing this for a while, it's not just a simple answer, Mr. Mayor. You've given me that there are a combination of forces at work here. Some of you see, and some of you don't see. One of them is over-assessment of the value of houses. You simply cannot afford to pay. We got people getting kicked out of the house in Chicago because they can't pay that tax for the alley, can't pay alley taxes. And then we changing that. The other thing, how many of you know anything about Airbnb? By Airbnb, raise your hand. Airbnb, that's the thing where you rent rooms to people. Now, many years ago when we lived in segregated communities and couldn't use downtown hotels, to rent rooms to practice teachers, rent rooms to the minister who came in for the revival, rent rooms to friends was a way of sustaining our household. Now we've come full circle. One of the hottest industries in America today is the Airbnb rent a room. Some people in Augusta, Georgia buy a house just to rent room for the Masters golf tournament. Many people that were seniors who are living alone in a house, no more children left, 3 or 50 bedrooms, in fact, can rent rooms and make money. Y'all get the point, right? I want you to become very acquainted with Airbnb because it's a serious way, and you living right here in Washington, there'll always be people who need to rent a room. And that's not a put down, that's one of the fastest growing industry in the whole country. Airbnb rent rooms to pay profit. Now don't be like the guy, we over near Fred Douglas' house one day, and some people came in from Britain, and they were talking with a little accent, and they asked the brother in the corner and say, where Fred Douglas live? I said, man, live right there. I said, where you from? So I'm from Britain. So he ain't never home. I'm sorry, y'all. I couldn't miss that one.
So rather than run, what I'm gonna try to do is repeat your question because I haven't been exercising a lot. Do you? Yeah, great.
My name is Folk Farmer, Reverend Jackson. I am a proud Ward 8 resident of the gorgeous community of Commerce Heights. Yeah. I have been a real estate agent for 9 years, and you have a lot of agents in this room. You have a lot of people who are on the pulse of economic development in Ward 8. So this morning I printed out some market statistics that I'm going to quickly share, and I'll gladly give this to you at the end of this. But December 2010 in Commerce Heights, the median sold price of a home was $80,000 in 2010. At the end of 2016, the median sold price was $272,000, and as of March, the median sold price is $300,000. So we're seeing these home prices just, this is crazy. Now, for people who want to enter the market, it's a little difficult for some, but there are programs that will help them. But for homeowners, for seniors, mainly we got a lot of seniors in Anacostia and Converse Heights who have survived gang wars and crack wars, who have survived a lot of the criminal element that has, been a part of Ward 8 for a very long time. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. This is their time to sell their homes because this money is part of their retirement. Many of them are ready to go. They're ready to sell. They're ready to go back south where they can take this money and get a bigger home in a quieter neighborhood and have well water and all this stuff. So this is what I'm hearing from my neighbors in the neighborhood. When I started out in 2007 doing real estate, I was always trying to get people, you want to buy in Ward 8, I'm buying in Ward 8, you need to come over here. I couldn't get nobody to buy over here. And now that all this development is happening, now everybody wants to come. So this is the issue that I have. I don't feel so much so, sir, that people are being pushed out. What I'm tired of seeing is that when economic boom happens, then we want to be a part of it, when we should have been a part of it before it started.
May I say this? There are several layers of concern. And one foot
Are you still on?
don't fit all the shoes. I'm saying there are several layers of the challenge, and one foot don't fit all the shoes. Some people want to sell. A. Some don't. B. I mean that and the point of what the real estate. How many other real estate agents are here? It'd be very good because that's what you do to help the process. Some people, I'm telling you, are seniors who don't want to leave, money notwithstanding. Some do want to leave. Some, it may be a tax issue, it may be a profit issue, but do know that even though they're waiving lots of money, when the dust settles, you'll be a stranger in this neighborhood in a few years, unless you determine that it's worth preserving. There are several layers, but you should make the decision based on good information. And at some point in time, you got to have a serious fair housing march. Mass action matters. Taking your case. Only reason I know about this, I was in Atlanta. I was supposed to be in Atlanta today speaking at a school. And I heard about it and I had such a pain. I got this call from Steve. I said, no, I'm going to Anacostia, going to Ward 8 right now, right fast. That's why we switched so fast. Because somebody said something about it. They'll let you die in the dark. So at some point in time, in addition to whatever else you're doing, not only you must march, but you must have a purpose, that is a plan. X number of people want to sell, X don't want to sell, and you must also fight for rules of residency. Because people simply buy you out and run you over if you don't have some rules to protect you from an unfair housing market.
But can I just,
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Everyone, if you would please lean on Chancellor Antoine Wilson, lean on the Dean of UDC Community College, lean on the charter schools, because we need a common sense, life skills curriculum where we teach our young people, where we teach young adults about financial freedom. We need financial counseling in the school. When I asked the previous chancellor, can we please have a life skill curriculum? And I don't know if you remember this, Trayon, when we were at CPCP, we started a curriculum there. And she said to us, what you're asking me to do is parent. I am not a parent, I'm an educator. This conversation needs to happen in the home. Well, east of the river, it doesn't always happen in the and it can happen in schools.
I want to go back to your point again a bit at the back of the room. Ron, part of what we're doing in the Rainbow, the reason I want y'all to join the organization, have a strong base here, is we were going to teach our children the stock market game and financial literacy, the science of capital. It's like, it's your body, but there's a science to it. That's why you have doctors who train you, help you take care of it. Say, doctors, help me take care of my body. It's my body. I cannot take care of it by myself. It's my money. I need help to help me take care of my money. Now, so we'll go quick to a doctor, but not quick to a financial advisor, a real estate advisor. You get my point? And so I think that your point is well taken. We had some youth teaching a 6-week stock market game and about what's a bear, what's a bull. I'm not talking about ball teams and all that stuff. And we got downtown and took them to the Chicago Trade Exchange, Stock Exchange. And one young lady, she would not put on her T-shirt. And I thought at first she'd been belligerent. She had raggedy blue jeans. I didn't know they sold them raggedy. I was a little off. And so she said, "Are the cameras out there?" I said, "Yes." She said, "I'm not going to put your T-shirt on about the rainbow." I said, "Well," she said, "because I'm a little big for my," her name was Tuesday. She said, "I'm 14 years old. I'm a little big for my age. And if you're going to be on TV, I got some Old Navy stock. I want them to see my stock." In 6 weeks, she had gone from spending to thinking finance. We had some ministers of the Wall Street Project took them to the stock market exchange in New York. They came in the morning. They were putting Krispy Kreme donuts on the market that day, and they were eating the donuts. I used to travel 6 miles to get 6 donuts and all that. They were talking, eat donuts. After about 2 hours in a session, they came out eating it, trying to buy some donut stock. The learning curve is a quick one, but fundamental. If I want to keep my house, I must learn how, the value of my house. And children who inherit the house, if they don't know what's the value, can't keep it. And so so we should meet with that. So that's a piece of the committee. So the science of keeping your house is a big piece of it. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I was going to say, there's a few folks who are asking, and I want to go to Miss Jackie Ward first, and then I'm going to go to Sharice. But Miss Jackie Ward, who was critically involved in the conversation that created this event.
Hi, Reverend Jackson.
And I'll stand up and bring you the mic.
I really want to say, oh honey, I got a big mouth. You could hear it. You could hear me from now to December. We have programs here in the city, which are designed to protect seniors, as well as designed to protect homeowners facing foreclosure. One of the things I know we as real estate agents do, and I know what I personally do, is when a person come to me and say, we are facing foreclosure, I go and say, well, there's this program, there's that program, there's the third program. I will say that DC has had the forethought, and there's a gentleman over there, Mr. Stan from the Anacostia Economic Development, who has always had a forefront of educating our residents. The problem is that we are bombarded with so much information sometimes that we can't figure out what's going on. And Monica Ray from Congress Heights, we have people here in the ward designed to help and assist our residents, especially with our elders. Now, one of the problems with our elders is sometimes when you go and you talk to an elder, you also have to talk with the competing wishes of the children. You know, I had to talk to a gentleman who wanted $1.2 million for his building. If I had to be honest, his building was worth $675,000. But he couldn't afford the taxes, and he wanted to retire. But his children was thinking long term about their inheritance. And the children say, you gonna hold on to that building? I said, but by the way, are you gonna help daddy pay the taxes? No, but you talking about my inheritance. So it's not sometimes like what Fo said, as Fo was trying to say. It is most of, you need to be able to get information across to the residents about the good programs we have here in Ward 8. As Trayon will tell you, Saturday we have 6 residents getting ready to open up, single mothers getting ready to buy homes here in Ward 8. They did it through a program that DC government have had, but it is a thing of going through, talking to the residents. I know Monica, that is her, she tries every month, but you have to sit down, and sometimes we can't get the information across.
Following what she said, what's the best advice? I'm not saying that there are layers of issues here.
Stay in Jackson, ladies and gentlemen.
There are layers. What? I don't sound too simple. The plan, given the multi-layers, because at the end of the day, it's the mass mobilization that gives us strength. But then with strength, you have to make choices. You can't make choices unless you have strength. I come together. The reason why on the was here today, sure was here, because we have strength coming together. So we got strength. Now, what do we want with the strength? What are our live options?
Take the mic stand.
I think our options are a number. I think part of what you just talked about is the intentionality of the community really claiming ownership for what's happening here in this sort of development phase that we're going through. I think what we've recognized is that home ownership has been a pathway to create wealth in a lot of our communities, and what we have to do is claim that opportunity to be homeowners here in our city, notwithstanding all the economic transformation that's taking place. I think all of that is good, but it's how you manage that and the impact of that change is what's important to us. And so I think one of the things that we have to do a better job is getting our community excited about being part of the ownership matrix here.
Who can people turn to basically when they have these questions to be answered?
This is a great segue into, so the Mayor's Office on African American Affairs, which could do a whole lot to mobilize this message or carry it far, and the Director of the Mayor's Office of African American Affairs, who is sitting over here, Mr. Rockmont Branch, who was with us this morning at Baloo, his office is, what are you at, $100,000 in the budget? $100,000 in the budget. It's 600,000 people in the city. 300,000 of them are African American, and the Office of African American Affairs has $100,000 in the budget. And so when you start talking about these programs that we can engage and educate folks, this is an opportunity. This is a vehicle, but it's an under-resourced vehicle. And so what do we? So would you like to speak to what we can and should do in that regard to speak to?
The reason, every time you show me like Cecilia, who's knowledgeable, pooling these thoughts. I mean, I can serve to help the catalyst to help bring our family together. The ideas in the room. I don't bring nothing magic. I bring credibility because I've been hopping and skipping so long. But now that we're here, we must break down according to who's. Say the gifts and the ideas we need are in the room. Let's pool them. That's the whole idea of tithing. Different people got something to offer, and we put together our collective plan to start out in that whole what we've saved up. And so I hear the real estate broker speaking. I hear the city speaking. So let's size it up. We know we want to stay on 1-8, don't we? Do we?
Absolutely.
Well, that ain't that the point? So we want to stay in 1-8. If we leave, it should be our choice, not a scheme of gentrification. Now, if we accept that premise, then some people want to say, oh, And the question is, you have a choice who you sell to, or choose not to sell. Some people, the tax issue for some people is a real issue. The rent issue is a real issue. So, I'm sorry, ma'am, and you, sir.
I want to say, first of all, Aaron, thank you for the invitation. Thank you for hosting this forum. Reverend Jesse Jackson, thank you. I've been following your leadership for as young as I can remember. I am a lifelong resident of Ward 8, born and raised in Congress Heights. I recently became an elected official here in the city. And I have a two-part question. The first part of it is that how would you say that, what would you say the difference it would have made if while you were as a youth pushing for affordable housing, pushing for the rights of the people, what would the difference have made if you had the seniors and the elders supporting you and locking arms with you versus dividing, versus kind of pushing you away? And then the second part of that is that we would like to see affordable housing such a broad term. We would like to see the AMI actually based on the ward in DC. Would the coalition be supportive if we were able to start that movement to get affordable housing not based on the entire city's AMI, but based on the AMI of a specific area?
At that stage in my life, the issue was not home. The issue was open housing. Could we live where we chose to live? The issue has changed now. The issue was not, these things were just getting their houses then. And they got them and kept them when the value was low. Now the value didn't shut up because some people got money disproportionate to their needs and we have less. Now we're feeling the strain now of this fewer and fewer when Trump going to cut 23 million people off of health care and switch $800 billion in that direction, that crowd can buy up like a giant sucking sound. And most people in the grouping feel safe, but by themselves, if I can go from $200,000 to $700,000, most people are going to start looking for a way out. So the impact of the economic squeeze will come to play. But then you can fight for rules of rent control, right? You can fight for room of caps. That's why I said you got to figure out who can work with us. Right?
Yes, sir.
So caps you can have a caps on. You can have caps. You can have the combination of rules that protect people who've been in the same or similar predicament. That's all I'm saying to you. Yes, sir.
My name is Ari Tressa, and I'm an anti-gentrification attorney, and my office is located around the corner. It's called Sweet Law. And locally, in this Ward 8 area, I represent the Berry Farms community. It's a public housing complex. And what we're fighting for over there right now is to keep them from being forced to leave the area, either their neighborhood or just the Ward 8 community during the 10-year development process that takes place. Citywide, I've worked with numerous activists and other people in the legal field on other development projects in the city that could lead to displacement and increased taxes around the entire area. So I worked on about 6 of those cases. And what you mentioned in Chicago about the taxes, the assessment, I mean, to me that seems like it's a scheme, that it's intentional.
Yes.
And that's consistent with what I've observed in my work. And I want to know what nationally that you're doing. You mentioned that there are people who fought this battle, and I just would like to know, how to get connected to these people.
Well, I'm anxious for you to keep sharing these skills because they convinced us first that we were dangerous to each other. And we should tear down these housing projects. And so we went along with the housing project. And now what was the housing project is now vacant land. Vacant land is now becoming a place we can not even rent or buy. Because it's driven by the ballpark. Between University of Chicago and the Baroque Library and the health center, and that there's a whole like a tornado coming through there, and nothing left but empty lots soon to be filled by zones we cannot afford to rent or buy. And at least you're on the front side, you'll struggle. San Francisco, I was in that 2 weeks ago. That may be 2% black, 7% percent. Willie Brown was mayor 10 years ago. Could be near the mayor today, because Silicon Valley has moved north from name that little town down there. Palo Alto. It's moved, and so now you can get this is $500 space in there. You know that. So again, I want to meet with you at some point in time, at verse 1 of a kind of commission, and bring in some other allies from around the country. So some people have been into this for a long time. I'm aware of it. I'm a specialist in it. I'm a specialist in convincing us that we turn to each other, and not on each other. There's talent enough in the room to protect us. At some point in time, a major mass action with something to say at it. If you have if 10,000 people show up, you're going to say the spread confusion. It's worse than before you started. You must have a major point of action with 2 or 3 solid points we agree to, whatever those solid points are. And your lawyer, it's part of your job, they have to figure it out.
And I want to say one of the beautiful things over time, and I apologize because I know there's a lot of people who want to ask questions and I want to get to them all. One of the beautiful things about Reverend Jackson over the years is that Reverend Jackson, I don't know that I've ever seen him take a shot at a person. Reverend Jackson takes a shot at conditions which are undeniable, right? You can remove a person, but when you look at an issue and you attack that issue in the fashion that this young man, who's still young, attacks an issue, then you can create the kind of change that I think we all want to see. And I think it's important to recognize that as we sort of figure out the choreography of our argument. And I'm going to get off my soapbox. I'm going to try to. There are also a few ministers in the room. Raise your hand, clergy. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, the point is there needs to be more of us, because if this thing don't work out, there won't be no members. So everybody is affected directly or indirectly. Ministers need members. Basically, we live in Ward 8, right?
Absolutely.
And the real estate people need people who live in Ward 8, right? So all of us kind of need each other. And that, I know it's repetition. I'm simply saying that as I listen to the lawyer, the real estate agent, let's form a commission, and then there are some allies. Unfortunately, you're not going to get much help from HUD. There was a time you could have. You want today.
Right. And just so there are a few folks with questions, and I want to be very mindful of Rev's time. If we could try to limit these questions, I would greatly appreciate it. Go for it.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks for coming. Thank you for offering to help a council member who needed. I want to know, what is your connection with Republicans? Because it seems as though they planning to do something with gentrification that you might know about. You need to tell us if you know.
That's a Ward 8 question, right there. It's a bold question mark at the end of a Ward 8 question.
I don't get that. I don't know about this crowd, this strange crowd to me. There are Republicans and there are Trumpicans. It's a different crowd. I don't know anything about this crowd. But see, but again, to me, the principles that you stand for transcend party. You can be ripped off by either party. The party's in the room. All I'm saying, I don't know about what the implications of your question was. I know it's some because people are sniggling, but I don't know about the.
Well, let's try that. So let me get to Jimmy, and then I'm gonna go up to Kamon.
While you get, I sent out a signing sheet. Is that somewhere in the room?
Yeah.
Well, may I ask a question? May I ask you to do something? Do we want to stay together for a long time to work this thing out and fight together? I would like to pass out some rainbow envelopes. I wish you would either take them or not take them. I want you to join the rainbow so we can have a reason for coming. When I come back over, I want to come to our members and we can figure out what to do together. And I want you to fill them up and out and submit them back to our alderman and to the pastor. Pastor, will you help me with that? Help me with this, will you please? I want you guys to do, because I don't know, the key to the Mandela movement was organization. So the key, the Southern movement was organization. The key to Mandela's movement was organization. So your being here to suggest that you've been brought together by the private, but you must tighten this up and see the Washington informers in the house too.
There she goes.
Let me ask a couple more y'all.
So
every now and then y'all lie. I'm over. I have to eat every time. Some of y'all fasting. I'm not fasting. Yes, sir.
My name is Jimmy Jenkins. I actually work for Councilmember John White. The question I have for you is, can you give us some advice for Ward 8 how we should come together and work together on these issues? I know during your time, when you were around my age, I saw how you guys came together and included different faith-based leaders, different government agencies, different nonprofit organizations, how they came together and attacked one issue. Whereas in Ward 8, a lot of times we don't get the work done because we all trying to do work from different angles, but we should be coming together. So I think a beneficial question would be, how can we organize and come together as one?
Yeah, but let me say something. It's not. Don't be unfair to me. They asked me to remember when I was your age. I don't remember that for a bit. I don't know what you're talking about. No, I think on a serious note, there may be more people in this room today than they ever came together to talk about the right to vote in Selma. We came together to figure out what the line that linked us together. Here, the reason I raised it to the link is we want to have the right to control Ward 8. We want the right to determine the value of our property. If we sell, it must be on our terms, not gentrification. Now, if you accept those, then you can mobilize ministers and real estate agents and lawyers, because we at least have certain basic principles around which we organize. We never had people who were as unified as they look. It always was organized chaos. It always was Operation Unity. But what has kept me going, frankly, if this room was totally dark and there were no lights, one candle would challenge all the darkness. And so sometimes principles must be a minority of one. That does not mean one to dominate, but it does mean that your light, there's enough light in this room to win this battle. The fact that the mayor's in the room, the council's in the room, the ANC is in the room, the lawyers in the room, in the room. If there's any answer, it's in the room. So we must. And young lady says what about some older people not want to listen to young people who got advice? That's a disease too. So whoever has some information, accept the information. So, but knock on these doors, okay? So I'm gonna ask two more questions, and I'm going to give me some ham hocks. I shouldn't say ham hocks. People should eat that kind of.
All right. I just want to say that I appreciate the Reverend being here, and thank everybody for coming out here for this important issue. However, I got to be the the devil's advocate. Someone has to be on the flip side of this coin, because this is not a love fest. We are in a state of emergency as it is right now. This is the last frontier of gentrification. After this is the river. Okay, you're speaking to an area in the city that it's not even a bookstore east of the river. You're speaking to an area in the city who has the highest negative statistical category you can think of in the city. But we all want to applaud the need for us to come together, but we don't even, subscribe to, the Washington Informer. We'll walk past that and get the Washington Post Express put in our hands, and we don't even question that. We get our information from our enemies, and we don't even support the people who are fighting for us. So we need as Martin Luther King said, a revolution of values. And so I'm a little disappointed being here, and I haven't yet heard any, concrete policy changes or avenues to confront the system up beyond a great march that you suggested. But we can't even acknowledge the fact that the vast majority of the people who suffered in the housing market crash
during Obama's administration was black people and people of color. And then those same banks were deemed too big to jail. And then when Obama comes out, the first thing he does is take the record highest payment for a speech to the same Wall Street bankers. And we applaud that. We need a revolution of values. So Slater King, cousin of Martin Luther King, when sharecroppers were getting kicked off their houses for exercising their right to vote, and they was being displaced as a result of their activism, he came up with community land trusts. That was something that was used then that could be used now. We still haven't come up with the fact that the system is not going to give us the keys to dismantle the master's house. We have to do that. And so I want to challenge, put to you, if you are here to help rally these people who have not yet had a revolution of values, to galvanize them and use your celebrity to pull these people together and maybe have concrete agenda items like communal land trust, like a property tax decrease, a property tax cap, separating property taxes even from education, because as Malcolm X said, when you go to a poor school, you get a poor paying job, the neighbors you live in a poor area, so there's a very vicious cycle that we caught up in. And then lastly, I just want to say that some of this is our faults, because a lot of people, that when Marion Barry created, hold on a second, give me 5 seconds, 5 seconds, 5 seconds, 5 seconds, what, 5 seconds, I got you. But so I was wrapping up. But the point is that he created the largest middle class in this country, but the majority of the middle class moved out the city and abandoned us. So all these things have to be addressed if we're serious about turning the tide on this. And I just want to put that to you, and hopefully that some of that will resonate with you and agenda items that we can all rally behind you and fight for. Thank you.
Let me say that please. I heard what you said, and as I say, in sincerity, I feel your pain, because I feel the complexity of this. When we got a house on 400 T Street, it was intentional to go into where they sold the most dope. It was an attempt to use my service, not celebrity, to make a statement that we should not leave 4 blocks from Howard University. All them nice housing apartments up down that street. And long as they were selling the dope over there and they couldn't get transportation, it was the deal. That transportation came in, that script flipped, and now we're strangers in that neighborhood. So we've seen the gentrification here in Washington, in that ward alone. What's that ward? 4, 5, I think. 5. So yeah. Well, my point is that it's easy in our pain to turn on each other. There are some things we can do as specific as we should subscribe to the Washington Informer today. We can do that right now. And what it does is, because we need a vehicle that we can trust to tell our story. We shouldn't be disappointed when we see the Informer show up and post ain't here yet. We don't need the post to talk to us. So we need to talk to each other with our own community vehicle. So that you got that's it. The Informer's in the room. Well, it ain't but so big. We can walk across this ward. Do y'all know each other in this room? Yes. Yeah, that's what's called community. That's why Giant was able to win, because he knew everybody in town.
And when I say something to Kamon, I want to get with you. I know we met before about community land trust. We want to follow up with that with policy. We are on the housing committee, so we can put forth action. We also created a policy team to get more Ward A residents involved and to get their input so we can get quality legislation coming out of the council during my administration.